I stood in the parking lot of a fancy Italian restaurant staring through the glass doors at my family, laughing inside. They looked perfect in there. My brother Marcus in his expensive suit, my sister Priscilla with her designer dress, my parents beaming with pride. And here I was wearing a faded flannel shirt and worn-out jeans, my old pickup truck parked between a Mercedes and a BMW. For 35 years, I had been the outsider in my own family. But tonight, everything was about to change in ways none of us could have imagined. Before I begin this story, let me know where you are watching from in the comments below. And if stories about family redemption and finding your own worth speak to you, hit that like button and subscribe to join our community. Now let me take you back to where it all began so you can understand why this night meant everything to me. My name is Zenobia, and I come from what most people would call a respectable American family. My father, Gerald, spent 40 years as a certified public accountant. He believed that success could be measured by three things: your degree, your job title, and the car you drove. My mother, Diane, taught high school English for 30 years before retiring. She had a habit of comparing everything and everyone, especially her children. I am the oldest of three. My brother Marcus is 32 now, 3 years younger than me. He was always the golden child. Straight A student captain of the debate team, graduated top of his class with a Master of Business Administration from a prestigious university. He married a beautiful woman named Bethany, bought a house in the suburbs, and climbed the corporate ladder at Wellington Properties, one of the biggest real estate development companies on the East Coast. Then there is my sister Priscilla, 28 years old, a corporate lawyer at a firm downtown. She got engaged last year to Derek, a heart surgeon. My parents could not stop bragging about having a doctor in the family soon. And then there was me, the family disappointment, the cautionary tale my parents used when talking to their friends about the importance of staying in school. 12 years ago, I made a decision that changed everything. I was in my junior year of college studying business because that is what my father wanted. But I was miserable. I spent every free moment volunteering with a local organization that restored old buildings. There was something magical about taking a crumbling structure that everyone had given up on and bringing it back to life. One day, I met a man named Theodore Ashford. He was 83 years old, a master craftsman who had spent 60 years restoring historical buildings across the country. He saw something in me. He offered me an apprenticeship, a chance to learn from one of the best in the field. But it meant leaving school. When I told my parents my father did not speak to me for 3 months, my mother cried and asked where she went wrong. Marcus, who was in college himself at the time, called me an idiot. Priscilla was only 16, but even she looked at me with disappointment. I left anyway. I followed Theodore across the country, learning every technique, every secret of the trade. When he passed away 6 years later, he left me his tools, his client list, and his blessing to carry on his legacy. What my family never knew, what I never told them, was that I took that foundation and built something extraordinary. But more on that later. The years after I left were lonely. Every family gathering became an exercise in humiliation. My father would shake his head when I walked in. My mother would ask passive-aggressive questions about when I planned to get a real job. Marcus stopped inviting me to hang out with his friends. Priscilla followed his lead. I remember one Thanksgiving about 5 years ago. We were all sitting around the table and my father asked each of us to share our accomplishments for the year. Marcus talked about his promotion. Priscilla talked about making partner track at her firm. When it came to me, my father just waved his hand and said, "Let us move on." The worst part was not the insults or the dismissals. It was the slow erosion of the relationship I once had with Marcus. When we were kids, I was his protector. I walked him to school every day. I taught him how to ride a bike. I stayed up late helping him with homework. He used to look up to me, but somewhere along the way, as his star rose and mine apparently fell, he started to see me differently. The admiration turned to pity. The pity turned to embarrassment. Last year, when he got married, I found out about it through a Facebook post. He had not invited me. When I called to ask why he stumbled over his words before finally admitting the truth, he said he did not want his colleagues and friends to meet me. He said it would be awkward explaining what I did for a living. He said he hoped I would understand. I understood perfectly. To my family, I was not just a disappointment. I was a disgrace they wanted to hide. The text from my mother arrived on a Tuesday afternoon. It was not an invitation. It was a summons. Marcus got promoted to regional manager, it read. Dinner Friday at Castellano is to celebrate. Your father wants everyone there. Try not to dress too casual. I almost did not go. I sat in my workshop holding my phone, reading those words over and over. Try not to dress too casual. Not congratulations on whatever you have been doing. Not we miss you. Just a reminder that I was not good enough as I was. But something made me go anyway. Maybe it was hope. That stubborn, stupid hope that one day my family would see me for who I really was. That one day they would be proud of me too. I showered, put on my cleanest jeans and a button-down shirt. I could have worn something nicer. I had nicer things, but some part of me wanted to see if they could accept me as I appeared to be, not as what my clothes might suggest. When I pulled into the parking lot of Castellano I felt the familiar knot in my stomach. The restaurant was upscale, the kind of place where the cheapest bottle of wine cost more than some people's weekly groceries. Valets in crisp uniforms looked at my 15-year-old pickup truck with barely concealed disdain. I walked through the front doors and was immediately intercepted by a hostess. She looked me up and down, her smile faltering slightly. "Can I help you, sir?" she asked in a tone that suggested I might be lost. "I am here for the Thompson party," I said. "Marcus Thompson is promotion celebration." Her eyebrows rose slightly, but she led me to a private dining room in the back. Through the frosted glass doors, I could see about 30 people mingling champagne glasses in hand. I took a deep breath and walked in. The first person to notice me was Bethany, my brother's wife. She was beautiful in an icy way, with perfect blonde hair and a dress that probably cost more than my truck. Her eyes swept over me and her lip curled slightly. "Zenobia," she said, her voice carrying that particular tone of false sweetness. "How nice of you to join us. Still playing with old bricks, I assume." Before I could respond, my sister Priscilla appeared beside her, her fiancé Derek in tow. She let out a little laugh. "Derek, this is my older brother I told you about, the one with the unusual career choice." Derek shook my hand with the kind of grip that suggested he was trying to establish dominance. "Pleasure," he said, though his expression suggested otherwise. I made my way through the room, receiving similar greetings. Distant relatives who whispered behind their hands. Family friends who offered tight-lipped smiles. My mother intercepted me near the bar, adjusting my collar with a frown. "I told you not to dress too casual," she hissed. "Could you not have at least worn a jacket?" "I do not own a jacket, Mom," I said, which was a lie. I owned several, but again, I wanted to see. I needed to know. My father was holding court near the window, my brother Marcus beside him. When Gerald saw me, his expression flickered between annoyance and resignation. He gave me a curt nod, but did not move to greet me. Marcus, to his credit, walked over. He looked uncomfortable, like he was not sure what to do with his hands. "Zenobia," he said. "Glad you could make it." "Congratulations on the promotion," I said, and I meant it. Despite everything, he was still my little brother. I still remembered teaching him to tie his shoes. "Thanks," he said. Then he glanced around nervously. "Look, just, try to keep a low profile. Okay? There are some important people here. Clients, colleagues. I will try not to embarrass you," I said. He winced slightly, then someone called his name and he hurried away, relief evident on his face. I found a seat at the corner of the main table, as far from the center of attention as possible. For an hour, I sat there nursing a glass of water, watching my family celebrate Marcus, listening to stories about his accomplishments, hearing my parents beam about their successful son. Then my father stood up to give a speech. Gerald tapped his champagne glass with a fork, and the room fell silent. He cleared his throat, assuming that particular posture he always took when he wanted to appear distinguished. "Thank you all for coming tonight to celebrate our son Marcus," he began. "When I look at him, I see everything a father could hope for in a son. Hard work, dedication, success." He paused to smile at Marcus. "From the day he was born, I knew he would do great things." He went on for several minutes cataloging Marcus's achievements, his grades, his degrees, his career trajectory. Then he turned to Priscilla, praising her sharp legal mind and her upcoming marriage to such a fine young man as Derek. I knew what was coming. I could feel it building like pressure before a storm. And then Gerald said, turning to look at me, "There is Zenobia." The room seemed to hold its breath. I suppose every family has one. My father continued, his voice carrying clearly across the silent room. The one who could have been something but chose to throw it all away. He shook his head slowly, performing disappointment for his audience. Dropped out of college to play with old houses. 35 years old with nothing to show for it. A disgrace, really. Someone in the crowd let out an uncomfortable laugh. But Gerald said, raising his glass with a magnanimous smile, "We still love him anyway." To Marcus. To Marcus. The room echoed. I sat frozen in my seat. I had been insulted by my family before countless times in countless ways, but never like this. Never so publicly. Never so completely. I looked at Marcus. He was staring at his champagne glass, refusing to meet my eyes. He said nothing. Did nothing. Priscilla was covering her mouth, but I could see she was laughing. My mother was nodding along with my father, that familiar look of disappointed acceptance on her face. 30 people, most of them strangers, had just heard me called a disgrace by my own father, and not one member of my family had spoken up for me. I wanted to leave. Every instinct told me to stand up and walk out, but my legs would not move. I sat there feeling smaller than I had ever felt in my life. I did not notice the man at the corner table. Not then. He was older, maybe 60, with silver hair and an expensive suit. He had been watching the whole scene unfold with an unreadable expression. I would not understand the significance of his presence until later. About 30 minutes passed. 30 minutes of me sitting in silence while the party continued around me. 30 minutes of pretending to be interested in my water glass while my family laughed and celebrated and pretended I did not exist. Then the doors to the private dining room opened. A man walked in, flanked by 2 assistants. He moved with the kind of quiet authority that made everyone stop and turn. Silver hair, tailored suit that probably cost more than most cars of presents that commanded attention without demanding it. Marcus went pale. He actually went pale. He stood up so fast he almost knocked over his chair. "Mr. Whitfield," he stammered. "Sir, I did not know you would be coming." The man, Jonathan Whitfield, smiled graciously. "I heard there was a celebration for one of my regional managers. Thought I would stop by to offer my congratulations in person." A murmur went through the room. Even I knew who Jonathan Whitfield was, the CEO of Wellington Properties, one of the most powerful men in real estate on the entire East Coast, my brother's boss's boss's boss. My father practically leaped forward to shake his hand. "Mr. Whitfield, such an honor. I am Gerald Thompson. Marcus is father." Jonathan shook his hand politely but briefly. His eyes were scanning the room. Then they landed on me, and he smiled. Not the polite professional smile he had given my father, a genuine warm smile of recognition. He walked past my father, past Marcus, past everyone. He walked straight to me. Well, he said, his voice carrying across the now silent room, "If it is not the owner of Heritage Restoration Group." He extended his hand. I stood and shook it. "Zenobia, my friend," he continued, "I have been looking for you. Your office said you might be here tonight." The confusion in the room was palpable. I could see my father's mouth opening and closing like a fish. Marcus looked like he might faint. "I am sorry," Gerald managed. "Owner of what?" Jonathan turned to face the room, one hand still on my shoulder. "Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to properly introduce you to this man. Zenobia Thompson is the founder and owner of Heritage Restoration Group, the most respected historical preservation company on the East Coast." He paused for effect. His team just completed the restoration of 3 buildings on the National Register of Historic Places, saved them from demolition, preserved them for future generations. He looked at my father with something that might have been amusement. "In fact, Mr. Thompson, the building where your son works, the Wellington Tower downtown, that building was scheduled for demolition 8 years ago. Zenobia is company restored it. Without him, there would be no Wellington Properties headquarters. There would be no regional manager position for Marcus to be promoted to." The silence in the room was absolute. My mother made a small sound, something between a gasp and a whimper. Jonathan continued, clearly enjoying himself. Heritage Restoration Group employs over 150 specialists. They hold contracts with the federal government, with state historical societies, with private collectors. He turned to me with genuine respect. And last month, Zenobia was nominated for the National Preservation Medal. The ceremony is next week. I am planning to attend. I found my voice. Mr. Whitfield, how did you know I would be here? Your assistant mentioned a family event, he said, and I recognized the name Thompson. When I put it together, I thought I would come see for myself. I have been trying to schedule a meeting with you for months. He chuckled. You are a hard man to pin down. I keep busy, I said. He nodded approvingly. That you do. He glanced around the room once more. I trust your family appreciates having such a successful man among them. No one answered. Jonathan raised an eyebrow, then turned back to me. Shall we talk business? I have a proposition for you. A joint venture. Historic properties that Wellington owns but lacks the expertise to restore properly. I would like that, I said. As we began to walk toward a quiet corner, I stopped. There was something I needed to do first. I turned to face my family. My father still frozen. My mother, tears starting to form. Marcus unable to look at me. Priscilla. Her hand clamped over her mouth. 12 years ago, I said, my voice steady. I left school because I found something I loved, something that mattered. I learned from the best in the field. I built something real, something that preserves history for people who have not even been born yet. I looked at my father. I never told any of you because I wanted to know if you could love me without qualifications, without achievements, without success as you define it. I took a breath. I got my answer. Then I reached into my pocket and pulled out an envelope. I had been carrying it for days, trying to decide whether to share it. This is an invitation to the National Preservation Medal ceremony next week. I was going to invite all of you. I set it on the table. If you want to come, you are welcome. If not, I understand. Either way, I am done apologizing for who I am. I turned to Jonathan. He was watching me with what looked like respect. Shall we? I said. As we walked away, I heard my mother call my name. Zenobia, wait. I paused but did not turn around. We did not know, she said, her voice breaking. You never told us. I looked over my shoulder. You never asked, I said. Not once in 12 years. Then I walked out of the dining room with Jonathan Whitfield, leaving my family to reckon with everything they had just learned. The next few weeks were strange. I threw myself into work, into the project with Jonathan, into the upcoming ceremony. My employees, the 150 people who had become my real family over the years, celebrated my nomination with a surprise party at our workshop. Harrison, my best friend and operations manager, gave a speech that made me laugh until I cried. These people, the ones who saw me at my worst and my best, who never once questioned my worth, they were my family. They had chosen me, and I had chosen them. The night before the ceremony, I was in my workshop late, putting the finishing touches on a Victorian-era cornice we were restoring for a client. The work calmed me. It always had. There was something meditative about bringing old things back to life. My phone rang. I did not recognize the number. Hello. A pause. Then Marcus's voice thick with emotion. Zenobia. It is me. I set down my tools. I know who it is, I said. Another long pause. I do not even know where to start, he said. I did not know. I swear I had no idea about any of it. Your company, what you accomplished. I just thought, we all thought, that I was a failure. I finished for him. Yes, he admitted. And I am sorry. I am so sorry. For the wedding, for every time I looked down on you, for not saying anything when he said those things. I leaned against my workbench. Why are you calling Marcus? Because I want to understand, he said. Because I keep thinking about what you said, that you wanted to see if we could love you without the success. And we failed. I failed. I closed my eyes. Do you remember when we were kids, I asked? You were afraid of the dark. You would sneak into my room every night, and I would tell you stories until you fell asleep. I remember, he said softly. I kept waiting for that brother to come back, I said. The one who saw me, not what I did. Silence on the line. I want to come to the ceremony, Marcus said finally. If you will have me. Just you. He hesitated. Mom wants to come too. She has been crying for days. Dad is struggling. You know how he is. But he did not say no when Mom mentioned it. I thought about it. Part of me wanted to say no. Part of me wanted to hold on to the anger to make them feel as excluded as they had made me feel. But carrying that weight was exhausting, and holding on to resentment was like gripping a burning coal. The only one who got hurt was me. "You can come," I said. "All of you. But I need you to understand something. I am not doing this for your approval anymore. I know my worth now. I found people who see it. This invitation is not me seeking your acceptance." "Then what is it?" Marcus asked. "It is me leaving the door open," I said, "in case you want to walk through it." The ceremony was held in the restored rotunda of a 19th century courthouse, one of my projects from 5 years ago. 300 people attended, government officials, historians, preservationists, and my family sitting in the third row looking uncomfortable and amazed in equal measure. When they called my name when I walked up to receive that medal, I looked out at the crowd. I saw Jonathan Whitfield clapping. I saw Harrison wiping his eyes. I saw my team, my chosen family, on their feet, cheering. And I saw my mother crying. My father, his face unreadable but present. Marcus standing and applauding something like pride breaking through his confusion. Priscilla looking at me like she was seeing me for the first time. In my acceptance speech, I talked about the buildings we save, about how every structure tells a story, holds memories, carries history, about how some things that seem broken beyond repair can be restored with patience and skill. And I talked about people too. We are all a little like old buildings, I said. We all have cracks, places where time and life have worn us down. But that does not mean we should be demolished. It means we need someone willing to do the work, to see the beauty beneath the damage, to believe we are worth saving. Afterward, my mother hugged me for the first time in years. Really hugged me, not one of those stiff, obligatory embraces. "I am so proud of you," she whispered. "I am so sorry it took me this long to see it." My father shook my hand. He did not say much, but his eyes were wet. For Gerald, that was practically a declaration of love. Marcus and I stood outside afterward looking at the stars. "Can we start over?" he asked. "I know it will not be easy. I know I have a lot to make up for, but I want my brother back." I thought about it, about the years of pain, about the wedding I was not invited to, about being called a disgrace in front of strangers. But I also thought about the little boy who was afraid of the dark, about the person he could become if given the chance. "We cannot start over," I said. "Too much has happened for that, but we can start here. We can build something new." He nodded, tears in his eyes. "I would like that." We did not hug. We were not there yet. But we stood together in comfortable silence, and that was enough for now. 6 months later, I can tell you that healing is not linear. There are good days and hard days. My family is trying, genuinely trying, and that matters, but trust once broken takes time to rebuild. We are all learning as we go. What I know for sure is this: the people who truly love you will see your worth without you having to prove it. They will love you in your flannel shirts and worn jeans, not just when you are standing on a stage receiving medals. And those who cannot see your worth yet, maybe they are just not ready. But that is their journey, not yours. That night at the restaurant, I walked in as a disgrace. I walked out as a man who finally knew his own value. And maybe, just maybe, that was the real promotion I had needed all along. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever felt unseen or undervalued by the people who should love you most? How did you find your own sense of worth? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience might help someone else who is going through the same thing. If this story resonated with you, please give it a like and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Subscribe and hit that notification bell so you will not miss the next story. We are building a community here of people who believe that everyone deserves to be seen for who they truly are. Thank you for spending this time with me. Whatever you are going through, remember your worth is not determined by the people who fail to see it. You are enough exactly as you are. Until next time, take care of yourselves and take care of each other.